I decided to study psychology here because I'm interested in the mind and in science, and it's just a very interesting subject. It gives you a model for understanding things, but also it gives you a very good perspective of how to understand things scientifically.
I thought it was really interesting to see how other people behave in certain situations and why that is. It's all about the why with psychology. It's like, why does this happen? And I think it gives you a better understanding of people in general.
My name is Richard and I'm a mature student studying psychology here in Greenwich. With my degree, I've been thinking about specialising in 3 different things. I want to do counselling and therapy. I'm also going to have the tools to do data analysis with these statistics modules that I've learned here, and hopefully do some research as well.
I'm Magda, I'm studying psychology of counselling and I'm in my final year. After graduating from university, I hope to do a master's in therapeutic counselling. So I hope to sort of train to be a counsellor, maybe go into like schools or whatever career choices there are really, because there's quite a lot. Obviously mental health is like a really big thing, and I think the university is like really supportive when it comes to mental health as well. And that's another good thing about Greenwich, is you always feel supported.
I think our society is in a real need for change and for positive change, and psychology offers that opportunity for people to support others in terms of mental health, in terms of well-being, in terms of fulfilling potential and flourishing. So I think it is a very exciting career and subject area to study. Here at the University of Greenwich, we are very well positioned to help students with their very first building blocks in this amazing career by offering very good foundation modules and also more advanced modules in diverse fields within psychology.
So when I went to like the open days and the taster day, it just put a really good vibe out there. I just thought, yeah, this is the place for me.
Greenwich has a range of very qualified researchers in very different and interesting subjects, and also they did counselling as an adjunct module to psychology, which a lot of other universities don't do.
So we have the BSc Psychology program, which is our broader psychology program, and with that students will have the opportunity to learn from the very building blocks of psychology to a range of different areas of specialism, and that will give them a very important broad view of psychology as a field for them to make their career choice at a later point. We also have the BSc Psychology with Counselling, which will have a bit more of a focus on counselling and mental health, helping these students to become more and more prepared for a career in clinical psychology or counseling settings. We also have the forensic pathway, supporting the legal system and working with the police, for example. That we have the BSc Business Psychology, so it has more of a focus on organizations and well-being and occupational psychology, and finally on sports psychology as well. So there is something for everyone here. On top of that, if you already have a university degree, you could consider applying for an MSc in psychology, and that takes 1 year full-time or 2 years part-time, and that will make you eligible for membership with the British Psychological Society as well.
I just think it's really interesting. There's so many different sections to it and different fields of study.
Going to university, it's great for socializing and meeting new people and considering perspectives you otherwise wouldn't necessarily consider, and they have a lot of events here.
Our campus is arguably the most beautiful university campus in London with great facilities, parks. We're surrounded by historical buildings and amazing facilities to support teaching and learning in our university.
I live in London, so it's very convenient to get to. Not only is the university accessible, but it's also close to accessible transport.
Well, I just think the campus is really, really pretty. It's quite local to me as well, so it was okay, that's great. I've made some really good friends here. My course mates are my main mates. They're really interested, we've been through sort of everything together, all the deadlines, but also all the really fun times.
So hi everyone, welcome to our 7th webinar for Expressive Arts Exhibition. This is more to an online workshop. I am your moderator for today's session. My name is Valer and I am a lecturer cum program leader from the School of Psychology at Segi College Subang Jaya. So once again, I would like to welcome all of you to this live art therapy workshop brought to you by the Psychology Club and the Psychology School of Segi College Subang Jaya. So before we start, I would like to have a quick tech check. If you all can hear and see me clearly, type yes in the chat box. All right, that's good. Okay, so a quick briefing before we start our session today. So this is our 7th webinar for the Expressive Arts Exhibition, which we have started earlier this year, initiated by the School of Psychology and Psychology Club at Segi College Subang Jaya. So you are welcome to participate in our virtual exhibition by submitting any forms of creative artwork, original artwork, which will be displayed on our Instagram and Facebook page. So these are the links to our Instagram and Facebook page. So we are still open for submissions. So to participate and keep yourself updated, do follow us on Instagram and Facebook. So now a quick briefing before we start. So moving on to our workshop today, our session should take approximately 2 hours. We will have around 45 minutes for the art making session and around 30 to 30 minutes for the reflective session. So during the art making session, feel free to ask questions to our facilitator today. So also towards the end of the session, do remember to take a photo of your artwork that you have done today and submit it to our exhibition. And we will provide you with an e-certification as a token of appreciation. So now, are you all ready for the workshop? If you are ready.
Ready.
Thank you. Type 1 in the chat box and you also may say ready, yes. Okay, I can see everyone is ready for the workshop today. So let's go. So allow me to introduce our facilitator for today's session. We have Miss Dana Karina here. Hi, Miss Dana.
Hi, Vala. Hi, everyone.
Hi, nice to have you here.
Hi.
So a little intro about our facilitator today.
Hi.
She is a registered art psychotherapist and she holds a master's degree in art psychotherapy from the Goldsmith University, London. And currently she is a freelance art psychotherapist with Mayasa and Soul Mechanics. So without further ado, let's welcome Miss Dana. Yeah, Miss Dana, over to you.
Thank
How
you
are
so
you
much,
doing today?
Vala.
Welcome. It's a pleasure.
I'm good. I'm really excited to be here, and thank you so much for to Segi and for the psychology club for having me here today. So my name is Dana. For those of you who aren't familiar, I am a registered and licensed art psychotherapist. I graduated with my master's in art psychotherapy in 2019, and I also hold a bachelor's degree in psychology, which I got from the United States. And I've been doing, kind of art therapy work ever since I moved back to KL for the last 2 years. And as Valar did mention, I am a freelance art psychotherapist for Miasa Malaysia and also Soul Mechanics, where I do individual and group sessions. And I also, host workshops and facilitate workshops just such as this. So I would like to thank everyone for being here today and joining us for this workshop that I'm really excited about. I think everyone should be really proud of themselves to be here, to be spending this Saturday afternoon, kind of, trying out something new perhaps, and, checking in with your feelings, allowing yourself the space to kind of, get creative and find a new healthy way to cope in situations. And hopefully, this workshop will leave you inspired and also leave you with some knowledge about art therapy and its benefits. So without further ado, I think we can go ahead and start our workshop. As you can see, it was called Reflecting on Feelings and Emotions Through Visuals and Color. So throughout this session today, I will be kind of guiding you throughout this art activity. I'm going to give you a little breakdown of how it's going to work. So what we're going to do first is we're going to have a little mini reflection session for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then I'm going to show you the steps that we're going to take into starting the art making, hence the creative process, which should last for about 45 minutes. And as Valar said, during this time, you are free to kind of ask me questions related to the topic, related to the topic of art therapy, or any concerns or questions or curiosities you may have about art therapy and this activity in particular. And for those who, because I understand that some people do like to work without any kind of distractions, and you do need to focus on the art making. So I do understand, and I am aware of that. So it's up to you to feel free to kind of listen in on the kind of conversations that we're going to have if people are going to be asking questions, or you can feel free to, turn your volume down a little bit if you really feel that you can't, multitask and you need to focus on the art making. So both is okay. I just wanted to let everyone know that. So let's go ahead and start. If we're all good to start, Vala.
Yep, sure. So next would be.
Yes. And also, to those of you, I should mention, talk a little bit about, just a little snippet about what art therapy is, but perhaps we will cover, more in depth about what it is, if anyone has any questions throughout the art making session. But basically, art therapy is a form of therapy where we use visuals and the creative process and art making to explore feelings and emotions that are brought up from this creative process. So through visuals, and visual arts, it can be anything from painting, drawing, clay making, sculpture. It's quite a wide kind of variety of visual arts that we can use. But for today, all we would need is, a piece of paper, so something to draw on, something to draw and color with. So you feel free to use any materials that you have available and accessible to you. Even if you only have a pen and pencil, that is okay as well. We will kind of work with what we have. There are no particular rules in how we're going to go about today's session. I will be giving you the foundation of the activity and guiding you through it. But, creativity is interpreted differently by everyone. So I just want everyone to be mindful of that. You are free to interpret this activity how you like. And we will explore more of that in our large reflective session, which is towards the end of the session today after the art making. So that is where we will be all showing our artworks. We'll have a few people maybe share their experiences, share their artworks with us, so we can learn more, through others as well. And just quickly, I also want to remind everyone that, when we're sharing our artworks and we're sharing our experiences, I do like to, kind of provide this safe space for everyone to do so. So we're not here to critique or judge anyone's artworks. We're just here to, express ourselves. So I just want everyone to be mindful of that for today. And this will benefit everyone and, hopefully feel comfortable enough to open up and to share with the group today and all the participants, our artwork and how we're feeling and things like that. If you have any questions along the way, please, you can drop it in the chat box as well, or you can go ahead and ask me. So if we can go ahead to the next slide. All right, so we're just gonna get right into it today. Basically, this part is where we're going to have a little 5 to 10 minute quiet reflection time. So what I want you to do first is on your piece of paper, I've got my paper here, so if everyone can have their materials ready with them on your piece of paper, you can either write what I'm going to tell you on the top, because this is just for your own reference, or you can write it on the back of your paper as well. It is up to you, or you can write it on another piece of paper if you like. But what I want us to do first is, this part of the process kind of helps us bring us to the present, helps us ground ourselves and, get us a little bit warmed up for the session. So what I want everyone to do is I want you to list down a minimum of 4 to a maximum of 8 words. And these words can be, feelings or emotions or any word that comes to mind that can describe how your week has been so far. So what I want you to do now during this next 5 to 10 minutes is I want us to kind of sit down, reflect, think about our week so far, any events that pop up in our minds, any, feelings and emotions that come up really strongly in our minds as well, any certain experience, or, if you're struggling to kind of look back on like the whole week, I always suggest with starting off with how you're feeling right now. That is a great way to kind of start and to check in with yourself. So this process is just a little check-in. It is part of the art activity that we're going to do after. So, sit down, and maybe in the beginning it could be a bit of a struggle to some people to kind of reflect and have to re-experience things again, but it's okay because that is part of the process for today. So I think at about 3:30, we'll start our art making. So that gives us about 10 minutes to, to have a think about this. You can think about your week so far. If something comes up from, maybe before this week, that is also fine. There's really no rules. So a minimum of 4 to a maximum of 8 words that I would like you to list down at the top of your paper. And just leave enough space on the rest of the paper for us to draw. So like I said, you can do it on the back or in the top left or right corner. List down these words and I will check in with everyone in about 5 minutes. And remember, these can be, it doesn't just have to be feelings or emotions. It can be other words that come up to you. So just kind of learn to trust whatever comes to you when you're thinking about this. And if anyone has any questions about this particular process or any concerns, please feel free to, write it in the chat box. I'll give everyone this will be like our little quiet time just to get things started and to help us kind of focus. Okay, I'm just going to reply to Arina, who has just mentioned in the chat box that she has just arrived. So I'm just going to explain to Arina really quickly about what we have to do now. So Arina, we're just in the beginning part of our session today. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about your week so far. This is a little reflection session. So I want you to kind of sit down. We've got about 5 to 10 minutes to do this, to kind of just sit down and reflect on your week so far, or maybe check in with yourself with how you're feeling now. And I want you to list down on your paper. So all of us should have a paper to draw on and something to color and draw with. The listing down will be just for your own reference. So don't worry if no one can read it or anything later on. This is just for your own reference. You can feel free to write it on the top, or you can write it on the back of your paper. So I want you to list down and think about words, feelings or emotions that can describe certain events or experiences that you have faced and experienced this week so far, or anything even beyond the week, or like I said, right now and today. So a minimum of 4 to a maximum of 8 words. So that's what we're doing now, and we're going to be starting our art making session at 3:30. So from now, everyone has about 7 minutes. I'll check in with everyone in a few minutes just to see how everyone is doing. I hope you managed to catch that, Arina. If anything, just let me know in the chat box. All right, so just doing a little check-in with how everyone is doing so far. Do you think you would need a couple of more minutes? I think perhaps for the next 5 minutes, what I'm going to do is, for those of you who still need just a little bit more time to kind of list these things down, for those of you who have already finished listing them down, I would like to hear what was the experience like, having to kind of, maybe we can get maybe one or two people to share that experience. What was that like? if anyone would like to come forward, and while we give the others a little bit more time to finish up.
I think it was certainly like very good to look back on our week and find out the areas of because sometimes we forget what happened throughout the week and forget some of our accomplishments and some of our weaknesses as well throughout the week. So it's also good to look back and note down some of our key feelings.
Yeah, I think that is a very valid point that you bring up, because not a lot of times we do allow ourselves that kind of space, or maybe we don't even have the time to kind of check in with ourselves and to also reflect on the week. Sometimes we may, like you said, forget about maybe some of our accomplishments. And especially a lot of times, I feel like sometimes the more maybe negative things are the ones that we tend to remember a lot, or tend to come to mind. So it's always important to kind of, look past that as well and see, well, what are some of the good things that I've experienced this week as well. So thank you for sharing that. And I think I just want to check in with everyone else. Is there maybe one more person that would like to?
I feel very exciting.
You feel very excited. Okay, that's great. So that's how you're feeling right now?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much for sharing.
Welcome.
Okay, I think maybe if we can just type in one for those who are, kind of good to go. I just want to make sure everyone is on the same page before we start. And then for those who write maybe number 2 is those who would need maybe about 2 or 3 more minutes. Okay, it seems like I'm getting a lot of ones, so I think. All right, I think the majority are done, it seems. Okay, so that was, the first part of today's process. What we're going to do next is we are going to be visualizing these words. And, through visualizing these words and these experiences or feelings or emotions, we're using art to kind of help us acknowledge and process these things. So what I want you to do next, I know for now it may sound kind of like mathematical and structured, but that's just the foundation. What I want us to do next is I've listed down 6 things on the top. You can't see it, and that's okay. But what I want us to do next is to draw a circle in the middle of our page. And it doesn't matter if it's an imperfect circle, it's not the cleanest circle. It's okay, because it's not about, the final product, and it's not an art class. So it is really just about the process itself. So go ahead and draw a circle in the middle of your page. And what I've done is I've divided my circle into 6 sections because I have listed down 6 things. So for those of you who have listed down 4 things, you can go ahead and divide it into 4, or you can feel free to add more as well, because sometimes while we are engaged in the process, other things may come up. We may feel like, oh, actually there's one more thing that I would like to include. So please feel free to do that. And others may have written down, for example, 8 words. But maybe throughout the process, you're thinking, I just feel like I just want to focus on 4 things. So really, kind of listen to what your voice is trying to tell you, and to trust that, because that is a big part of the process as well. Really trying to be in tune with what we want and what we're feeling in the moment. So like I said, it just has to be a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 8. So go ahead and do that. I'll give everyone about 2 minutes to draw their circle and to divide it into sections. Okay, I can see an okay from one of our participants. Let's just give 1 more minute to everyone to kind of finish that up. So basically, this circle and the divided sections and the list of words that we have written down is already the foundation of today's activity. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of start with what we're going to do next. So as Vala and I mentioned earlier, that our art making will go on for about 45 minutes from now. So 3:30 to 4:15. I will check in with everyone at 4, and because with the art process, and sometimes people take longer than others are done much quicker. So we try to accommodate to everyone. So I will check in with everyone at 4 o'clock, and then we can kind of wrap up and start the reflection at 4:15. All right, so what I want us to do now is, you've got your circle, you've got your words listed down. I want us to basically now, we can start wherever we like. Like I said, there's no rules. It's all about the process. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to be using colors or, words or drawings or symbols or anything to kind of visualize the list of words that we have written down. For example, if you have the word calm written down like I have, you can feel free to start off anywhere you like. I would always kind of maybe suggest starting off with what you're feeling right now, just to kind of, like I said, get you used to what we're going to be doing. Or you can start with whatever really comes strongly to your mind. For example, there's this one word that you feel, I really want to start with that. Go ahead and start with that. So we're going to be basically filling in every section of the circle with a visualization of these words that we have written down. So hopefully that's clear to everyone. I don't want to give too many kind of, rules per se or instructions on what you should do. I just like to give everyone the kind of core foundation of what we should be doing, because then we're all free to interpret it however we like. So feel free to use colors or whatever material you have, or drawings, or words as well for those who like to use words. Okay, so let me just reply someone who said that for the person who messaged me that they can't understand, could you kindly let me know which part you don't understand? Okay, part 3. So, okay, do you mean the dividing into sections or what we're doing after? Sorry, I'm just going to, make sure our participant and everyone were on the same page before we start. But for those of you who, who want to get started, you can already get going and start. So let me just explain once again to the person who said they couldn't understand part 3. So based on the words that you have written down, I want you to, for example, I have 6 words written down. So I have divided my circle into 6 parts, 3, 4, 5, 6. And what we're going to be doing with that is, for example, we're going to label each part with the words that we have had written down. And what I want you to do in here is I want you to get creative and to, turn these words into a visual where you can use colors, you can use patterns, you can use drawings or doodles or words. So that part is really up to you and up to everyone. Okay, I think they have got it now. So hopefully that's clear. Is everyone else, kind of on board and okay to get into the art? I can see like a lot of people are already kind of focused and doing the artwork. So we will be kind of reflecting more on this in our reflective session later, which is where we will be exploring, what everyone has done so far, what we found interesting, any observations we have made about ourselves, or things that may have come up during this process. And also we will explore the visuals, why maybe you visualize this particular word in a certain way. So I think in our reflective session, that's where we will really kind of get to really reap the benefits of this workshop, because not only will we learn from ourselves, but we can learn from others as well who will be sharing with us. So enjoy the process. I just want to let everyone know that, if it is okay to feel things during the process as well, if you start to feel emotional, or you start to feel, any kind of way, just letting you know it is okay, because it is all part of the process when you're acknowledging and you're processing certain things. So I just want everyone to be mindful of that. And I will also be joining in with the art activity today. And like I said, the floor is open to any questions related to art therapy, any questions you may have for me, or any questions that you may have in relation to the topic itself. And you can also feel free to use the chat box if you have any questions.
Hi, Azrul. Yes, do you have a question?
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering, because it resonates personally to me as well. Let's say a person who is not really the artistic, they can really express themselves in, in colors and in artworks. So how does one go about this? How does one express themselves?
So I think this is something that, as an art therapist who has worked with all kinds of clients, people do have this kind of idea that, doing art therapy, you need to be artistic, you need to be good at art, you need to have some sort of art experience. But, I do like to remind everyone that you really don't. I think all of us have creativity, inside us. It's just whether we choose to nurture it or not. And, what's different from art therapy and art class is, perhaps in an art class, you want to improve your skills, learn new techniques in art making. However, in art therapy, we are more focused on the process and not, what the artwork looks like. We're focused on really, just expressing oneself. So I think that is a normal thing for people to feel in the beginning if they are not particularly engaging in creative things all the time, or they feel that they're not artistic. But I think for those who are at least willing to try and willing to explore, through the experience and the process, hopefully you'll be able to learn that it is okay to express yourself however you like, and there's really no right or wrong way to do it. And also when you're guided by an experienced and professional art therapist, they can kind of help you, create this kind of space where you can kind of gain the confidence to experiment a little bit more, to explore more, to try out different art materials that perhaps you may like. Maybe sometimes, there's situations where you think that, okay, I wasn't good at painting, so I'm not good at art. But we never know that you could, find joy from something else, perhaps clay making, or you can find it through collage. So there's so many, different ways that you can express yourself. And it really is all about just starting. I think curiosity is a great way to kind of get started. So, the fact that those of you who may resonate with, I'm not a good artist, I'm not good at art, those of you that are here today, that is already a step in the right direction, because you're willing to try, you're willing to explore. And I think, that is the biggest part of, the beginning part of the process. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Miss. Sorry, just to follow up on that question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say that when it comes to me personally, I'm more inclined towards making things like making, like you said, clay making and all that stuff. So
more 3D?
So more 3D, exactly. So I can't really resonate with, painting, because I don't think I'm really that artistic. I can express myself there that much. But when it comes to, making models, for example, it kind of like, it kind of makes me personally feel like I can express myself. So do you think that it's a good way for me to express myself in that sense?
Definitely. I think, if we were perhaps in a session where you had expressed this to me, right? Where you openly told me, I actually enjoy 3D modeling more so rather than 2D kind of artworks and the creative process. So perhaps that is something, for me as a therapist now, knowing that, we could probably kind of incorporate more 3D creative processes into the sessions, which will kind of help you, make you feel a little bit more comfortable. And then from there, we can maybe then start exploring other things. But it's always good to acknowledge, what you do enjoy and what you do feel you do thrive in. So we can kind of tap in on that. So definitely, if you the fact that you are naturally able to tell me that that is something you enjoy, that is something you feel that you can really express yourself with, you can do that. And of course, if you did have the kind of materials around you right now to make a 3D version or, use something other than 2D materials such as, paints or drawing materials, by any means, you can feel free to interpret this activity however you want according to what you prefer.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Azrul. I'm just gonna answer a question that I got in the chat box. Okay, can you kindly explain what we need to do after drawing the circle into parts? Okay. Okay, so basically I have explained this earlier, so I'm not sure exactly what maybe you may be confused with, but I can see there's been a reply to that, to write down the words you identified earlier, one word into each part, minimum of 4 words, a maximum of 8. Depends on how many you have listed down. And what I want you to do after that is you can get creative and then, visualize. For example, you can have the word happy, just a random example. If I had the word happy written here, how am I going to visualize happy? You can use it through, using colors, whatever material you have. You can use words, you can use drawings, you can use shapes, anything. There is no rules. Okay, so, this participant can't understand, and can you give some examples? So a very rough example would be perhaps the word happy to me. I feel like I can represent it with the color yellow. So I'm going to color it in yellow, and then maybe there are some things that remind me, maybe some symbols or some objects or something that reminds me of what feeling happy is like. So I'm going to then draw that in there. There's really no kind of set example because everyone's different, but I think that is a very kind of general example that I can give you of how to start. If you're struggling with, this part of the process, perhaps you can just start off very simply. You can just start off with using colors. Yes, you can just start off with using just a color. You don't have to do anything else, if that can help you kind of warm up. So hopefully that clarifies your question. Yes, so the color or whatever, or however you choose to fill in the circle can represent the word that you have written down. So if your word is a feeling or emotion, it will represent that. Try not to overthink it so much. Just there's no right or wrong color to represent anything. We're going to explore all of this in the reflective session later today. So just get creative with it and just enjoy the process and see what comes out of it. There are no rules per se. The only thing I can give you is that kind of foundation to work with. And then everything else is how you choose to interpret the activity. So hopefully that answers your, yes, you can write the word and color on it. You can literally interpret it however you like. There's no right or wrong way to be creative and to express yourself. So you can feel free. I think, you know, like I said, try not to overthink so much because there's no right or wrong way to do it. So if you feel like using words and colors, or you feel like using both, you can do that. If you feel like using patterns, you can use patterns. Just really try and listen to yourself and see, you know, where your mind takes you during the creative process. And perhaps I would suggest for you maybe to, oh yes, you can start. I think everyone has already started. So some are already done, but you know, like I said in the beginning, that we're mindful of everyone's processes. Some take longer than others. That's great that you're already done. We have about, I'll be checking in with everyone around 4 o'clock just to see how we're going. I'm going to actually start on mine, but I'm still open to any questions that we have from the audience today.
Miss Dana.
Hi.
Hi, yeah. I just have a curious in art therapy session. So there are some people they don't believe in art therapy. So do you notice any stigma when organizing an art therapy session?
Yeah, I think that is a great question because, you know, having worked with, like I said at the beginning, all sorts of people from different backgrounds, different age groups, you do tend to notice perhaps a sort of pattern from different age groups. So I think usually adults are a bit more hesitant and usually tend to show a bit more resistance to any sort of creative kind of expressive therapy. A lot of times because they think that it's just something for children, or they think it's something that's only for artistic people. And I think what I find a lot is that with mainly adults, there's this hesitation, I'm not good enough, or how is this supposed to help me? Because it could be something that's very unfamiliar to them. The last perhaps maybe experience that they had with art or anything creative was like in preschool or in primary school. So which is why their mind takes them back to, you know, this is something for children, you know? So I think as the facilitator and as the art therapist, you know, you're there to kind of, you know, acknowledge how they're feeling, which is completely valid. It is normal to feel those things, especially depending on your experience, right? So I think it's always good to kind of remind people that, you know, art really is for everyone. Art does not discriminate. You know, art breaks all genders and age, backgrounds and race. So it really is for everyone. And also, you know, it's one of those classic things, if you don't try, you'll never know. So usually I would, you know, tell them that the fact that you are here in a workshop today, that already shows that you are curious, and the fact that you're here and you've showed up is a great start, isn't it? And you know, you have to try things out in order to know if it's something that works or doesn't work for you, or if it's something you do enjoy, you don't enjoy. With children, on the other hand, younger people are usually more, they show less inhibitions. That's definitely what I realized. With children, they're usually very excited to start, very excited to share their works, really enjoy the creative process because it is a familiar thing. They do it in school, it is encouraged. But, you know, with adults, I think another perhaps a stigma, maybe not stigma, but another kind of pattern I do realize from some of the workshop is that, you know, this idea of opening up is very difficult to some people. Opening up and being vulnerable is not the easiest thing, you know, but that is what we try to kind of encourage in these workshops. through, creating this kind of space, right, where people can feel comfortable enough to open up. So that is definitely the one pattern I do tend to see a lot. One of them is, I'm not good enough at art. What is this for? And another one is that, I'm not comfortable with sharing my feelings in front of a group of people. I'm not even comfortable with sharing it with the therapist. But that's all part of the process. And that is something that we'll, end up working with rather than working against.
Okay, thanks, Miss.
Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Hi, Dana.
Hi.
I noticed there are 2 or 3 participants who just joined. Perhaps if you can just give a quick briefing what they must do.
Okay. So, all right. So we've got about 2 to 3 participants. All right. I'm just gonna do a.
Lishi, Jishi, they just came in.
Okay. All right. No worries. I will kind of just explain and run through. Just letting you know, for the ones that have just joined in, we are already in our art making part of the session. So what I want you to do right now is, hopefully you do have a piece of paper and you've got some drawing or coloring materials with you. I want you to get that out and readily available for you. And like I said, everyone is already in the art making process, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you a quick kind of outline of what we're doing and how to get you started. So what I want you to do now for the first 5 minutes, I want you to have a little check-in with yourself. I want you to list down at the top of your paper, 4 to 8 words. So a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 8 words. I want you to check in with how your week has been going so far, or maybe how you're feeling now. And like I said, a minimum of 4 words, and these can be feelings or emotions, or they can be words that describe your experiences over the week, any kind of certain event that comes to mind. So anything that kind of comes to your mind strongly is, I think, something that you should acknowledge in this session. So go ahead and write those down. Just because we've already kind of gone through this, I'm just going to run through it quickly. So once you have those written down, I want you to draw a circle in the middle of your page. So I want you to first take 5 minutes to list those things down. And then you're going to draw a circle. And then depending on how many words you have written down, for example, I had 6 words that I thought of. I'm going to divide my circle into 6 parts. And once we're done with this part, once we've done, divided the circle into sections, we're going to then label each section with the words that we have written down. And what I want you to do after that, which will be the art making process, is I want us to use colors. I want us to use words or patterns or drawings to kind of visualize those words. So for example, I was telling someone earlier, this is a very rough example. You can feel free to get how creative you would like, and, experimental, or really express yourselves in a different way. That is okay as well. I was telling everyone it's all about the process. So there is no rules. And yeah, for example, I was saying, for example, happy, maybe I represent happy with the color yellow, but I don't want this to kind of influence your work, but I'm just giving a rough example, just because I know I'm running through this very quickly, just because I do have your time in mind. So go ahead and do that. And please feel free to write down any questions or concern you may have to me in the chat box. Just because you joined in during the art making process. So if you're still a little bit confused or have any questions, please feel free to ask me. And we're going to start our reflective session around 4:15 if everyone is about ready at that time. Between 4:15 to 4:30, so that allows us the time to do our artwork. And also I have left the floor open to any questions that anyone may have during the session, during the art making session.
Excuse me, sorry, miss. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious to know. What do you think? Like, is there any prospects for art therapy in Malaysia?
That is a good question. So, any for art therapy in Malaysia? I think, ever since before I moved back to Malaysia, like I mentioned earlier, I was studying in London, right? And before that, I was in the States. So even to me, because I did grow up here, it wasn't something that I had heard of growing up here. I think even the topic of mental health in itself wasn't really as open as it was now, wasn't as discussed about as it is right now. So when I was in the UK and the US, art therapy was already something quite established in spaces, for example, like schools, education settings. Every public school had some sort of therapist, and usually with children. So like in primary schools and in kindergartens and preschools, there was definitely almost in majority of schools there was an art therapist that will offer their mental health services. But then moving here, I did realize there was a lot of awareness and education and information that I had to spread around it over my last 2 years, because it's still quite a new field, isn't it? It's not something, I think right now people are talking more about therapy and counseling, but I think the more alternative form of therapy, such as perhaps dance movement therapy, therapeutic writing, art therapy, there's so many play therapy as well. There's so many forms of these kind of alternative creative therapies that I feel that now we're in that stage where perhaps it's a very kind of it's being kind of just introduced right now in our country. And I think there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, also because there are many art therapists. Personally, I only know about one or two registered art psychotherapists here in KL that I know of. So you can tell from that, I think that is a reflection of how niche it is here. But the kind of response that I've been getting is that I've been getting a very overwhelming response from not only from schools, from education sectors, but also corporate settings, or adults with mental health issues or mental illnesses, and the NGOs that I work for. People are very curious about it. People are very curious about art therapy right now. I think because people are used to kind of the idea of talk therapy, counseling, and all that, which is much more familiar. But I think the fact that perhaps now that they've heard that art is also a way that we can use to heal, we can use to explore emotions in a safe and healthy way, I think it's definitely kind of opening up, opening up new doors here for it to be talked about more. And I think what I've been really kind of wanting to push here as well is to really raise awareness on how important it is to have these services available in educational settings, such as, public schools, government schools, primary schools, kindergartens, to have these services available. So, through workshops and webinars and things like this, that's how I can kind of help spread awareness on art therapy. But I think so far it has been a very positive experience here in Malaysia, with the curiosities around it and how people are interested and wanting to know more about what it's all about, and especially students in schools and things like that. Sorry, I just also got a question in, someone said they wanted to show their work, but I think perhaps we can leave that to the reflective session later. That's where we'll all have the opportunity to share our works, to talk about it. Right now, we're just going to, let everyone kind of finish up and continue to engage in the creative process. Because for some people, it can take longer than others.
Okay, madam.
Miss Dana, there is another question from Nishi in the chat box.
Yes, okay. So, okay, we have someone to say, I'm curious that the words that we have to list down could be objects. That is interesting. I think, if an object comes to mind, definitely write those down, because we all, have different experiences and, unique realities. So if an object comes to mind, feel free to write that down, because that is definitely something that we will explore in the reflective session. I think that is quite interesting. And you said, oh, these must be emotions. They don't have to be. Whatever comes to mind when you reflect on how your week has been so far. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to approach this. They can be feelings, they can be emotions, they can be any words that are used to describe, or, to describe events or experiences over the week. Or, if there's a certain object that comes to mind, there must be a reason that this object is coming to mind. So, feel free to write down whatever comes to mind, as long as it's part of, how your week has been so far, or how your day has been so far, or anything even beyond the week, how your month has been, as long as you really kind of listen to where your mind takes you when you're reflecting on these events. I was also just wondering if anyone else had any, that may have any questions.
Hi, Miss. It's me again.
Hi.
Just wondering, just based on your own personal experience, do you notice a more like a significant engagement from client with using art therapy as compared to, like, as you said, conversational therapy?
So in engagement in general, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. You, it really does vary. I think, in my sessions, I do let people know that, of course you can talk, and there are some sessions where people just feel like they have more to talk about rather than to make art about. So we have a mix of both. And some sessions people just want to make art. So I think it really depends on the situation, and it really depends on the client and their background. But what I do notice is that making art really helps, it really allows us another tool and medium to kind of explore our feelings and things. Because I do notice that sometimes some of my clients perhaps may struggle to find the words to explain how they're feeling, or ways to verbalize some difficult experiences. So I think art really helps with that. Perhaps that they're feeling something, but they feel like they don't know how to describe it. So that is when I would encourage the art making, and through the visuals, through the creative process, and maybe through the image that they made, I can ask some questions, and that kind of helps them gain insight into how they're feeling as well. So it really just is another tool to describe how you're feeling, another medium to kind of share and explore things that you're experiencing. So hopefully that answers your question.
So, Miss, following on that, so let's say they are the patient is reserved in showing their artwork. As you said, it's a medium for them to express themselves. So how do you proceed with this, for example?
Okay, so it depends. I think if you're referring to a group session or an individual session, did you have a specific thing in mind, a specific scenario? Or is it just a very general?
Like, for example, as you mentioned, that art therapy can be used as a medium to express yourself and whatnot. But let's say the person is very reserved, so they don't really express themselves in words, and they don't express themselves in art.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you proceed with this?
All right. So I think, as a therapist, you will kind of be able to tell that, this client is perhaps more reserved. And that is something that we'll have to work with, because I believe that is a part of the process itself. Perhaps then we will explore, why the client is reserved. We could explore this through art as well. Maybe it's a good step that the client, does the drawing and does everything, but doesn't feel comfortable yet. And I think as a therapist, you'll be mindful to know that you can't force anyone to share anything. You can't force someone to do what they do not want to do. You kind of work with what's happening. So perhaps this is something you'll explore in the next session. And part of the therapeutic relationship is building trust, building the kind of safe space with the client. Some people who are more reserved, for whatever reason it may be, they can be reserved for very valid reasons, right? Maybe they have had some sort of traumatic experiences that they've lived through that then doesn't make them feel comfortable to be vulnerable, to open up or to share. So that is something as a therapist, I think that you'll be mindful of. And, over time, by building trust together in that therapeutic relationship, by hopefully letting the client know that this is a safe space, and that takes work from the therapist as well to be able to create that kind of environment for the client. So it's not something that you can change perhaps over one session. Perhaps it's a process. Some clients may take longer than others, and it's just something that you will have to work with together and to explore more. And usually what I tend to see is then over time they slowly start to feel more comfortable. And you got to trust the process. I think from both client and the therapist end, that is the best that you can do.
Miss, thank you so much.
All right, thanks, Asro.
Miss, I would like to ask something as well.
Sure.
How does art therapy help with developing in any kind of coping skills or resiliency in people?
Yeah. So I think, in terms of developing resilience, that is a very big thing. I think personally, I have always used art to build resilience in myself. And I think because with art therapy, that it's about the process. So when you're engaged in this process, it kind of helps you learn things about yourself. It's a tool for self-discovery. And as you're learning about yourself, you get to start to learn perhaps, patterns and triggers. And once you learn more about yourself, then, you can perhaps then learn to manage things differently, respond to things differently through this process. And in terms of coping skills, I think through art making, through the creative process, through reflecting, perhaps this, it differs for everyone. The experience is always different for each individual, isn't it? But I think what I can say is from my clients, a lot of them struggle with perhaps anxiety is what I deal with a lot, kind of general anxiety or social anxiety. And art kind of gives art making and, the creative process sometimes can help them give that confidence that they need to apply to other situations or scenarios in their lives. Because a lot of times what I notice is in our sessions, they would start off perhaps being not so confident in themselves, saying, I can't do this, I can't do any art. But after the process, once they realize that, they've done something, they've accomplished this, they've learned something about themselves, it does bring them this sort of confidence that then kind of applies to other areas of their lives. And also in group sessions, when we do art therapy, what a lot of people gain is kind of this confidence to interact with others as well through their art. So I think it's just a whole process on its own that really can help with developing different coping skills. For children, it can be improving, motor functions, or it can help increase focus, depending on the art activity that you're doing. And I just saw some questions, but I'll answer that in a little bit. But I think there are different coping skills depending on what you feel you lack. You lack in general. And in terms of resiliency, like I said, I've used art to kind of personally build my own resilience, having perhaps gone through a lot of anxiety in the past. Art has really allowed me this kind of safe space to help me process all those things on my own so that I'm not projecting them elsewhere. And so it really is all about the process, and it differs on each individual, but there are definitely different ways that it can benefit people through the creative process, and especially when you're facilitated and guided by a registered and professional art therapist along the way.
Thank you, Miss.
All right, thank you. So I think someone was asking if the next session is at 4:15. I'm assuming the next session that they're talking about is the reflective session. Yes, so it is 4:15. I'm just going to check in with everyone how they're doing. We've had a lot of questions so far, so I'm just curious to see how everyone is doing on there. Should we perhaps give another 5 minutes before we start our reflective session? Perhaps you guys can write in the chat box if we can have another 5 minutes maybe, or if you need longer time. I think I'll check in with everyone at about 4:25, so that's about 8 minutes. And that will just give us a nice amount of time for the reflection session in the end.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
So, is there any tips that you can give to like calm the mind? Because at times like now, it's kind of hard to concentrate on thoughts. Like it's like trying to catch the wind.
So is that something that you're experiencing right now with in this process?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is that it is maybe perhaps a bit of a challenge to kind of, perhaps maybe think about particular words or particular events and experiences in the last week. And that is okay. I did mention in the beginning that it's not going to come naturally to everyone. And perhaps because this is not something we do every day, it's not perhaps something that we're familiar with, kind of sitting down, checking in with ourselves, reflecting on the week. So I think it's mindful to sit with that. In terms of tips, I always say it's always great to start with how you're feeling right now. And then, that could probably help you kind of warm up into checking in with yourself and, kind of reflecting. And then once you've started that and, coloring in the chart as well, perhaps then it might be easier to then reflect back on past events. So usually those that struggle with, kind of going back into the past or even going back yesterday or 2 days before, I always would suggest starting with how you're feeling right now.
No, it's more like not about going back, but more like the feeling right now part, like sorting through the emotions. Yeah, is that right? Yeah, it's sorting through. That's basically.
So you mean kind of identifying the emotions? Or which part was it that you're struggling with? Is it the listing things down, or then which part exactly?
It's more like no, it's the drawing part, but like when focus on the word and try to actually let's say picture it.
So visualizing these words.
Yeah, like actually going into those words.
And I think that's something worth exploring in itself. Maybe we can think about, why do you think that seems to be a challenge right now? Okay, do you think you can think about why that is a bit challenging right now to visualize these words, or is it to even start with one of the sections?
Starting is all right, just actually filtering things out.
And that is okay. So like I said, everyone is going to have a different experience, and this is something that we will explore in the reflective session, because some of us may find it hard to kind of visualize these things. But I think the fact that you were able to acknowledge that and to share that with me, the fact that you are having a bit more of a finding it to be a bit more of a challenge to do these are all the things that we will be exploring in the reflective session. So I think, just whatever you have done so far, you can share that, because I think at the end of the day, if we kind of force ourselves to do something, that kind of defeats the purpose as well. So I think, whatever you have for now, whatever you have to share after, we can explore it more in the reflective session, if that's okay.
Yeah, all right, sure.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
And yes, to answer the question in the chat box, we will be, once everyone is done, and also just letting you know, if you aren't able to finish it within the time frame, that is okay as well. We'll just share kind of whatever we have done so far, and this is something you can continue after. So we'll definitely start the reflective session at 4:30, so that gives us an ample amount of time to share our works, to talk about it. And during this reflective session, I would highly encourage everyone to turn on their cameras. And of course, if your camera isn't working, or if it's something that you're really not comfortable with, I'm not going to force that upon anyone. But I think to get the maximum benefits out of the reflective sessions, I would highly encourage everyone to turn on their cameras at 4:30, because what we're going to do first is we're going to hold up our artworks and kind of have a few minutes to have a look at everyone's works. And like I said earlier, we're not here to judge or critique anyone's works. We're really all just here to express ourselves. So just be mindful of that. If you have any comments about anyone's works, you can feel free, of course, to point things out that perhaps resonate with you, or something that you find interesting. I will guide you through this reflective process. So we've got about, I think, 5 minutes that I'll give everyone to finish up. All right, so just got a few more minutes to kind of start wrapping things up. And Valar, I think during the reflective session, perhaps we can remove the slide from the screen, so at least that way we can see everyone in the gallery when we're all showing our artworks, if that's okay.
Sure, sure. I will remove.
Okay.
I will stop sharing the slides.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I think let's take this last minute to just wrap everything up. Like I said, if you're not finished or we feel that it's incomplete, it's okay. We're just going to share, what we have done so far because, we are working with a time frame. So I do see some people are done. And like I said, for the reflective session part, that is where we're going to be sharing our artworks. We're going to be perhaps, talking about our experiences, things that we felt, things that we thought about, and also maybe some interesting things that we observed throughout the process. And, for those who maybe will not have the opportunity to kind of, share, hopefully hearing from others and learning from others will provide you with some insight as well. So I think I can see everyone slowly starting to turn on their cameras, which is great. It's nice to see everyone, and I'm really excited to see everyone's artworks as well. And I think this will be the part where we will all be able to see, what unique individuals we all are. Because usually from this part of the session, we'll see how everyone interprets things differently. So I'm just going to give a minute for everyone to turn on their cameras before we hold up our artworks. Okay, so we do have a majority. Maybe the rest who haven't come on yet are still maybe doing some final touches. But for those of us who have turned on our cameras, I think because it is 4:30 already, perhaps we can just, go ahead and start. So what I would like us to start off with is to put up our artworks and just to show it to our screens. And we're going to take, a couple of minutes to just take it all in and to see everyone's works. So far. All right, let's put it all up. Okay, all right. And like I said, usually if it's in a physical space, we will kind of have it spread all around the table and we will walk around the table and look at everyone's artworks. Okay, great. And this is what I mean by, everyone interprets things differently. I can see some very interesting things already. Some have used more words, some have gone the 3D route. Some have used kind of diagrams and images to describe these words. Some have used a lot of color, others have used no color. And this is great. I can see some images with kind of facial expressions as well to describe some symbols. I'm getting a lot of different things. And it's, I think, amazing from what I see so far, how each of us has interpreted this activity today. Okay, great. I think I can see a few more have started turning on their cameras. So what I want everyone to do is I want everyone to just have a look at everyone's works. Take it all in. Perhaps then after that you can share, what you found interesting from this observation. Is there anything that you feel like you can relate to from someone else's artwork? Okay, interesting. Oh, I see someone has done a triangle, which is great. So not a circle, someone has gone out of the box and done a triangle, which is great. Okay. All right, great. Everything looks great so far. So I think, that was the first part. Where we all just kind of get a general overview of what we've done so far. So I think without further ado, perhaps I don't think with a half an hour, we're going to be able to hear from every single participant, to have a reflective session with each and every one of you. But I will try my best to accommodate as many people as I can. So, I think I will leave myself out for now because I'm really interested to hear what everyone has done so far. I think I really want to point out before I start with anyone, I really like to talk more about Azrul's one because I see you've done a 3D version, which is what you said you preferred. So I love that you've gone and stuck to, what you really enjoy and how you really feel that you can express yourself. Could you talk to us a little bit about what you've created?
Yeah, essentially, this is just my sculpture based on what I can find that's laying around. It's basically, the way I interpret it is more of, with the current situation where, with the lockdowns and all that kind of stuff, people are actually going through these stages where they can't really go out that much. They're expressing this kind of anxiety, this uncertainty. So my way to express that kind of that kind of feeling, that kind of emotion is by doing this. So basically it's just in an individual, this is supposed to be a chair, but since it's not really that hardened yet, so it keeps toppling off and on. So
okay. Interesting. Yeah, so a chair, why did a chair come to mind?
So because considering the lockdown, so most people can't actually go out and do kind of stuff. So I kind of not to say merge, but it's that the first thing that comes to my mind when it comes to being in the lockdown is sitting down, and when it comes to sitting down is very restrictive. You can't really go out, express yourself.
So no movement.
Almost. No movement, exactly. So that's my interpretation of it, and the arms and sorry, I don't know if you can see. But yeah, it's pointing at the head area, so pretty much signifies as the level of anxiety or uncertainty rather. So yeah, that's my interpretation of the model.
Okay, and I wanted to, I'm sorry for putting you on the spot, but I have never seen a 3D interpretation of this activity before, which is why I found it, very interesting, and I had to kind of hear your kind of process behind it. And I think it's very interesting also that you thought about an object, because someone else in the chat box earlier mentioned, can I list down an object? So I'm very intrigued by this thing with objects, because you've got a chair. I'm not quite sure I remember the name of the person who was talking about the object earlier, but did you end up doing an object? Oh, okay, yes. Okay, that's very interesting. I never usually from this activity have had people, list down objects as one of their words. So I think that is just something quite new to me today, which I do find very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing, Azrul. Would anyone else like to go next? I think there was someone earlier that was very kind of eager and excited to share their artwork and for the reflective session. So I would like to invite you to have that opportunity now, perhaps to share. Oh, I can see someone holding up. Anyone who would like to go next, feel free to turn on your mic and to show us your artwork.
Me.
Oh, who was that?
This one is.
Oh, hi.
I'm very exciting with this art.
That's great. Can I see your artwork? Oh, okay. So you've used a lot of what looks like emojis, is it?
Yes.
Or like smiley faces?
Yes.
So what are the 4 parts of this circle that you have drawn? So I can see happy,
exciting, loving, healthy.
Okay, that's great. So a lot of very positive words that you have thought about today. I think that is probably a reflection of how excited and happy you are in this session today. And I'm glad that you really enjoyed this session and you found it exciting. So thank you so much for sharing.
Welcome.
Is there anyone else that would like to go next? I do see some people holding up their artworks. Would you like to turn on your mic and talk to us about it?
Okay, I guess I'll give mine a shot.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my artwork. It's there's a lot of words to it.
It's very detailed.
Yeah.
It's quite like small, and there's a lot going on in each of them.
Yeah, so basically I highlighted like 8 feelings: procrastinating, deadlines, tired, being studious, college, freedom, energized, and happy. And then I wrote some words in each of these sectors, basically on what each topic was about. So for example, for tired, I wrote over here, like sleep is needed. And then I drew a bunch of like Z's and, batted eyes. And then for like deadlines, I was like deadlines, due in a week, due soon, do it now. And then for procrastination, because I've been busy procrastinating the entire week. So I was like, I was using some of the phrases and some of the words that would come in my head. So yeah, so that's basically the kind of idea behind the whole artwork.
Okay, and what was the process like for you, when you were kind of thinking about perhaps like procrastinating and stuff? Did you find yourself, when you drew and wrote down and listed these words in the diagram, in that section, did you feel like it kind of helped you process?
Yeah, for sure. I felt like, I got a more clearer sense of the issue at hand. And as I drew it, I was like, oh, so this is what I need to work on. And I could materialize it in a sense.
Right, right. Okay, I think that's very interesting how you thought of 8 things, and I do see that the last 2 that you mentioned were like happy and energized.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how, which one did you start off with today?
I started off with energized.
Ah, okay. So you started off with energized.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Because I think it's interesting sometimes to think about which word you started off with as well. Because sometimes from these reflective sessions, what I do notice is that a lot of people do start off with the more negative ones first. And that is always something interesting to think about as well. Why are we more comfortable sharing, the more negative feelings and the negative emotions, and then they will save the positive ones for last. So I always find that quite interesting, which is why, I did ask you, which one did you start off with? But you started off with energized. So was that perhaps how you were feeling right now? I mean, or then when you were doing it?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you so much for sharing.
No worries.
We've got about 20, 15 to 20 more minutes, about 15 more minutes for people to share. I'm very curious to hear, because I did see a lot of interesting artworks. Hi.
I am Subhadeshwin Sivamohan, and this is my element. I express my feeling this element, and usually naturally I don't like art, but in this class I can develop my interest in art.
Okay, so that's really nice to hear.
I'm so excited.
Oh, that is so nice to hear, and I'm really excited that you were able to express that, and be truthful with me that art is not something you enjoyed, but then after this experience, perhaps this is something new that you could try out more. Would you like to share with us a little bit more about the artwork that you did? What were the words that you listed down? Or I can see that you used some colors.
I listed the feelings like happy, honest, and non-stressable, encourageable, enjoyable, concentrating, and caring and love. And I colored the color according to the feelings.
Okay. And I'm curious, what did the yellow? What's the yellow color?
The yellow is concentration.
Interesting. Okay. And did you find it quite easy, or was it a bit difficult to think of a color to represent these words?
Yes, was little bit difficult, but it was enjoyable also.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and I'm really glad that you enjoyed the session today.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that's really great to hear, people being honest and open about how they feel about art, but then also honest about how they felt after, and after engaging in the process as well. I would love to hear more from other people.
Hi, Miss Tana.
Hi.
I also excited.
You're also excited. Okay, we've got a lot of excited participants, and that is very nice. So a lot of kind of positive, positive emotions.
Hi, I am Mohammed Sivamohan, and I did my circles with some few colors and with some few feelings of words.
Okay. So I see you've got a different color for every
feeling.
For every feeling. Okay, and how did you find? How were you able to think about the colors to represent the feeling?
Like the red color is for anger, then the green is for calm, and then the yellow color is for shy, and then the peach color is confused, and then the purple is sad, and then the blue is happy. It was
okay, very interesting. And how did you? Sorry, couldn't hear you.
It was a bit difficult and a bit easy to do these colors and then the feelings about it.
Okay, all right. So you did find it sometimes it was easy, maybe other times you experienced it was a bit more difficult. So it's good because you experienced both and you were able to, but you know, you were still able to complete the activity and you're still able to, you know, to be brave enough to volunteer to share your artwork with us. So I thank you for that.
Yes, thank you. And I'm also,
thank you.
I'm a lover of art. I love art.
Oh.
And I'm also excited in this class.
All right. Oh, that is lovely to hear. So I think, you know, hopefully this has inspired you to keep using art,
yes.
You know, as a way to express yourself.
Yes, of course.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Teacher,
anyone else? I heard someone. I heard someone say something. Would anyone
Teacher,
else like to? Oh. You love? I heard someone loves something.
Art.
Oh, you love art. Okay, that's great. And you know, like I was saying before this, hopefully you can keep making more art and keep expressing yourself and keep being creative. All right, so we've had a lot of very eager, excited participants to share with us. I'm curious if there's anyone else that would like to share. Or anything that you found interesting from what you've heard so far? Anything that you feel you can kind of resonate with? Any interesting observations that you have made about yourself?
Miss Dana.
Hi.
Okay, so maybe I should go next.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. I did this, but I'm not sure if it's clear or not.
Oh, okay. So I can see you've used, so some of it has color and the others don't. Is this something on purpose or is it because it's not finished yet or is it that's how you chose to? Ah, okay, interesting. Could you share with us a little bit about?
Okay, so the first word I put is exhausted, and I put with no colors because I think because I felt tired, so this should be no colors on it. So yeah, and the second one is satisfied. I put blue, like blue here because when I like as we know, blue is feel easy, warm, yeah, something like that. Yeah, and the next one is worry. I worry about my next future, what's going to be. So I'm not putting the color because it's quite chaos for me to think the color yet. And yeah, and the last one is even though with this negative kind of words here, but I also put support here because even though I have like this negative experience here, I also have supports with me. So I put in purple because it's feel warm and lovely to be with them. So yeah, that's gonna be.
Okay, so it's interesting you were kind of able to find that, create a balance in your image with, maybe when you thought about the negative things, it also then allowed you to perhaps think about some positive things as well. And also, that you mentioned, I think the one part that you drew, was it thinking about the future or anxious about the future, the one where there was no color? And you said that you didn't add color because you found it was too chaotic to think about the future. So, I think that's a reflection of when you are anxious about the future and, if you start thinking about it, it can get overwhelming, right? So perhaps that's why you couldn't also think of a color or anything that will represent that because it was just too chaotic in that moment. So I think, yours is a great example of how colors or no colors can really represent and visualize something, how you're feeling or something that you're thinking about. Sometimes it can be with no color as well. Maybe no color really expresses something better than having color. So that is why in this reflective session, these are all things that we can learn from each other, right? That everyone has different experiences, and everyone has different colors that represent different things. Sometimes blue can represent calm to someone else, and sometimes blue can represent sadness to someone else. But also with color representation, let's say if you feel that blue represents sadness today, it doesn't mean that it always has to represent sadness, because they can evolve. Your representation to color can evolve from your experiences. So it can maybe be one thing today, it can change tomorrow, as we're always evolving based on our experiences, right? So I think that's something I want everyone to kind of remember. It doesn't mean that if you've put down yellow for energize today, it doesn't mean that the next time as well, it has to be yellow, because these things can evolve and change. So thank you so much for sharing, Ida. Anyone else? We've got time still for perhaps one or two more people to share. I think that it's great that we've had a lot of people share so far, but I would love to hear any other experiences or something perhaps that maybe you learned about yourself throughout this process, or how did you feel before compared to after?
Maybe I can try to share.
Yes, of course.
But mine is a bit, I can't say very good lah. I
It's
hope you
okay.
can see, because
Yes.
the color a
I
bit,
can't see the words, but I can see the colors.
Okay, I can say the words. So the blue and yellow, I mix the color here is for penguin. That's why I asked, is it possible to put an object, I would say.
A penguin.
Yeah.
So is it, okay, interesting. And what did that represent?
Because how I say, because I got a dog, it's my penguin. So every time I feel anxious and stressed, I will have that. So it's like a coping mechanism for me. So once I think one word, so immediately this one comes first.
Okay, interesting. So I think that object is almost kind of like some sort of emotional support.
Yes.
Right? For difficult times, for difficult experiences. So that is very interesting. That's why, when you asked earlier, can I put an object? I said, yes, of course you can, because, it would be interesting to hear about this in the reflective session. So now that you explained what it meant and why you thought of that, it makes so much sense. So I'm glad, you were able to ask me earlier, can I do that? Because just like I was saying, in art therapy, there are really no kind of rules. There's no right or wrong. Whatever you feel that you really want to express is always right, because there's a reason that you want to express it. And it's really all about the process. Okay, so were the other parts of the circle also represented by different objects, or were those words?
No, others are the feelings.
Okay. And how did you find this experience, or what was the process like for you?
It's very interesting, I would say, because I'm not very good in art, so I seldom do any art. So for this time, I try my best for sure. And then it's quite difficult for me to represent my feelings using the color, I would say, because I found that I got two circles are using the same color, which is purple, but one is a bit darker. So maybe that one can represent me. I'm kind of stressed of that, I think. And then I found out one thing, because I'm not sure is it will like reflect my feeling or not, because I saw the circle and then each circle got different angle, like different portion. So I was thinking that, is that possible the portion means that it's more impact for me, or I'm not sure.
That is actually a very interesting thing that you bring up, because sometimes I do notice with people that sometimes maybe some of their sections are bigger than the others. And there is sometimes it's a coincidence and other times it's not. But let's say the biggest one was like a positive or a negative thing. Sometimes there is maybe subconsciously you don't even realize that you felt that you wanted to fill up the bigger part of the circle with that particular emotion or feeling. So that is something we explore in the reflective session. So was that something that you felt like you experienced? Were you kind of thinking about like, oh, why did I put this word in that part of the
Sure.
circle or?
Yes, actually I realized it after I finish it. Because after I finish it, I something like I go to it again. I feel like why I put this in this small portion. I feel like it's supposed to be big portion, but if I got a chance to draw it, I think I will draw again and then with different portion for me.
So what you've just done there is you've done your own reflecting, right?
Yes.
You know, you were thinking about these questions and, you know, you were wondering, you kind of, like you said, after you done the art making, you looked at it again and you said, actually, you know, I find this interesting. I would have done it maybe another way. So that is all part about like learning about yourself as well. And learning and exploring ways to express yourself. So this is something that you can think about when you perhaps do this next time. So all these questions that you ask yourself, all these observations that you make, they may seem like little things, but they're actually really big, important things to perhaps acknowledge and to incorporate in the future. So, you know, those little reflections that you do on your own are very important in the process. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think, you know, that was very insightful to me, and I think also insightful maybe to others here today. This is why the reflective process is, you know, I find that it is almost as important, if not more important, than the creative process itself. Because I think from this session, we get to hear everyone's experiences. We get to hear about, you know, people's different processes. And I think that's quite insightful in learning not about ourselves, but learning from others as well. Which is why, you know, we are here to reflect and to share our experiences with each other. I think perhaps we are coming to the end, but maybe we'll give time for one more person to share if they like. If there's someone that feels the need, like I really need to share something or an observation, or maybe it doesn't have to be about your own experience. It could be something that you found interesting about someone else's experience as well.
Teacher,
yes?
I just write towards that.
Sorry? Can you say again?
I just
I can't really hear properly, unfortunately. What you're trying to say. I'm so sorry. Do you want to maybe try again to say, it seems like there's something that you really want to share. I think I couldn't catch it. I'm not sure if it's just on my end or is it on the participants.
It's a problem with the internet connection.
Participants, yeah, the participants connection. We have another person here, Rudresh. Right, Rudresh?
Hi.
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 So this is my part.
Wow, okay. Maybe I can see a little bit. Would you like to talk to us about your art, what you have drawn?
Tree is what? Nature. The tree is for nature's.
Oh, you drew a tree that for nature.
Then we got some emojis like smiling. Then we have some playing for free. We got badminton, bowling, hockey, PUBG.
I'm just going to interrupt here. Rudresh, would you mind removing your virtual background so we can see the picture maybe?
Because it seems that you've drawn a lot of interesting things, so it'll be great to see.
All right, that's much better.
Okay, thank you. Oh, wow. Okay, so I heard just now, so did you draw things that you like? Is that what you've drawn? Things that you enjoy, things that you like? You said just now something, you drew trees and nature.
That star, this for patterns, and this eye, star, moon, wishing star. This is decoration. This is decoration.
Okay, lovely. But did you enjoy the art making
Yes.
and the drawing? Okay, that's great. So you had a positive experience.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
All right, and I also I just want to talk about an experience that someone had, right? And how this person has said that putting my feelings onto a piece of paper has only amplified my emotions. I think that is a very valid thing to bring up, because that is something that will happen when you are acknowledging and processing feelings and emotions, especially when you're giving your space the time to think about these things. Because this person has said, probably because I think whenever I'm feels more real now, and I can't do what I usually do with negative feelings, and that is to suppress them. But I believe it was overall a good experience, though I probably won't do it again. So, thank you so much for sharing that. And I think I'm very happy that you shared that with us, because I think this is a very important thing to acknowledge. Everyone is going to have a different experience with these activities. And, processing and acknowledging emotions and feelings isn't the easiest thing to do, especially if it's not something that we practice all the time, because we're almost forced to face these feelings, right? They can be negative or positive. And sometimes the easiest thing to do is our way of coping with maybe negative feelings or negative emotions or experience is to suppress them, is to ignore them, to not think about them, maybe distract yourself with something else. But sometimes, this may become an unhealthy coping mechanism as well if we suppress them. So, I think the fact that you tried and you were here today, and the fact that you were able to be open and share your real experience with us, it's not something that's for everybody, but perhaps something to think about, because all of these processes are tools to help us learn more about ourselves. And it seems that you have learned something about yourself today. So, reflect on those things, think about that. And that's basically kind of the gist of what happens in art therapy. We have these realizations through the creative process. We learn more about ourselves. It opens up this kind of path to self-discovery. And we can learn about maybe triggers or patterns. And and with the therapist and someone there to guide you, we can kind of talk about it more. We can dive deeper into it and explore it more, and really kind of get to the root of the issue per se. So I think, we have come to the end. I'm glad that thank you to everyone that has joined in the reflective session today and to have volunteered to share your experience with us and to share your kind of artworks as well. I'm really happy that you were, able to be open here. Some of you shared very positive things, others shared, a little bit of both. So I think, everyone should be really proud of having been here today and for engaging in the process, even though, it may have been more challenging to some than to others, but that is okay, we have to try different things to, learn more about perhaps what suits us better, what we enjoy, what we don't. It's all part of the learning process. So I really hope that everyone has, gained some insight and maybe learned something new today from this session. I definitely have. I thought it was a very interesting experience. I think I've definitely learned a lot myself. So I really hope, some of you were able to as well. So, with that being said, that was our workshop for today. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you for all your reflections. Thank you for sharing your artwork with us and for being open in this group as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Dana, for this such an amazing session, I would say, because we can see throughout the session, our participants today are highly engaged and interactive. They are so curious. They are so excited, especially the kids, so much of enthusiasm that we can see. So I believe that this session would be a great one to each of us here, because we get an opportunity to express our thoughts and feelings and emotions through visuals and colors, and with this sharing session that went on with the Q&A sessions. It was really amazing. So thank you again. Thank you to our participants too. But before we leave, please take a photo of your artwork and submit it to us. Here, you can scan the QR code. For those who can't scan the QR code, our team will share the link in the chat box. So this is for our exhibition purpose. Like what I mentioned before, we have virtual exhibition going on, whereby we have all those collection of artwork. This is not for competition, it's just for the sake of creating awareness on the importance of expressing oneself through arts. Yeah, so we will showcase this on our Facebook and Instagram page. So the link is available there. You can either scan the QR code, you can straight away go to the link. You can even save the link for future purpose, because you can do multiple submissions. Yeah, so in future, if you want to do more artwork and share it with us, you can do so. So I'm just going to give some time for you all to take a photo of your artwork and submit it to us. So if you plan to submit it later, you can save the link that we have provided in the chat box. Just let us know if you are done. So you can follow our Facebook and Instagram to see all the artwork collection that we have so far. So when you submit your artwork, you have to include a caption, just a short caption about your art. It can be in few words or even in a single word, doesn't matter. And upon a submission, we will send you an e-certificate to your email address. Since you have to include your email address when you submit it to us, you have to do this in Google, because since it's in Google form, so you need to include your Gmail. Yeah. So in return, we will send the e-certificate to all of you soon. So especially the kids here who joined today, I hope their parents can help them to do the submission so that they can get the e-certificate. Thank you. So I hope everyone got the link earlier. So you can go to our Instagram and Facebook page to follow us. May I know if anyone else still need the QR code? So, all right, I think with that, we can come to an end for our session today. Again, I would like to thank all of our participants here. Also the crew that helped me with this online workshop. Again, to our facilitator today, Ms. Dana, thank you so much for the wonderful session. We have learned a lot, and we had fun too, especially the kids. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Welcome. So stay connected with us. See y'all again next time. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye, teacher. Thank you so much, teacher. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye. Bye, teacher.
Welcome.